It all begins when a cloud of radiation spreads across the Earth, and scientists discover something terrifying. Those particles cause the dead to come back to life, but they don't return the way they were. Now they only want to devour the living. This sparks a brutal conflict known as the Zombie War, where humanity fights to survive against these creatures. Over time, humans are on the brink of losing, until Dr. Ryan Hrothgar, founder of ZomCon, makes a key discovery. If a zombie's brain is damaged, it ceases to exist for good. Thanks to this, they manage to win the war. Afterward, ZomCon builds massive security systems, surrounding cities with steel walls to keep zombies out. Even so, the danger doesn't disappear, because anyone who dies still turns into a zombie. To solve this, Dr. Hrothgar creates a special collar that controls these creatures, removing their urge to attack and making them obedient, almost like pets. Of course, if the collar's red light goes off, the zombie becomes dangerous again. In that case, ZomCon asks to be contacted immediately, or for an emergency button to be used. Thanks to this technology, zombies can even continue working after death and become part of society. However, those with enough money can pay for a permanent burial to ensure they never return. Years after the war, the story moves to a school in Willard City. During a class, Miss Mills introduces a special guest, Johnny Bottoms, a hero of the zombie war and now the city's head of security. He's also the father of Cindy, the youngest student in the class. Johnny asks the children how many of them have had to face a zombie. Only a few raise their hands, including his daughter. He's glad, because his job is to make sure no one has to go through that. Then the students are allowed to ask questions, and a boy named Timmy asks a rather unsettling one. What happened to the people who were buried before the radiation? Did they try to claw their way out of their graves? The question makes everyone uncomfortable, so the teacher quickly cuts the moment short and sends the kids to shooting practice. At the training field, Timmy proves he's good, but Cindy turns out to be even better, outperforming many adults. Meanwhile, two boys, Stan and Roy, start making fun of Timmy and even point their weapons at him, but the teacher quickly steps in and punishes them. After school, Timmy rides home on his bike. On the way, he sees Stan and Roy being punished, and when he reaches his neighborhood, he notices new neighbors moving in. As he gets closer, he realizes it's none other than Johnny Bottoms and his family, who will be living in the old Johnson house. Before getting home, Timmy greets Mr. Theopolis, who is calmly in his yard with his girlfriend, who happens to be a zombie. Something completely normal in this world. When Timmy arrives home, he leaves his bike on the lawn, but Mrs. Henderson, a nosy and bad-tempered neighbor, orders him to put it away properly. To avoid trouble, Timmy listens and stores it in the garage. Inside the house, his mom, Helen, is baking cookies and an apple pie to welcome the new neighbors. Timmy tells her that the new head of security is moving in next door, and upon hearing this, Helen sees the perfect opportunity to fulfill something she has always wanted. When Bill gets home from work, Helen surprises him with a special dinner and makes Timmy dress nicely because she wants everything to look perfect. But the real surprise comes when the doorbell rings. A zombie appears serving the food. Helen, very proud, says they won't be the only family in the neighborhood without one anymore. Bill is completely shocked and even drops his glass in fright. The zombie tries to clean up, but only makes things worse by dropping the roast on the floor. To avoid arguing in front of Timmy, Bill takes Helen into the kitchen and clearly tells her they can't afford a zombie, since they're already struggling to save enough money for future funeral expenses. But Helen insists. She tells him she already met the new neighbors and that Johnny, the head of security, is living in the old Johnson house, and that they have 6 zombies working for them. Then she admits that, out of embarrassment, she lied and said they had one too. While they argue, Timmy asks the zombie to pick up the roast. Seeing this, Bill gets so annoyed that he uses a remote control to electrocute it, almost as if he enjoys having power over these creatures. In the end, he agrees to keep the zombie, but only if it stays chained in the yard whenever it's not working. The next morning, everything goes on like normal. The newspaper gets tossed onto the lawn. Mr. Theopolis comes out to grab it with his zombie girlfriend, and even the milkman throws the bottles the same way, copying the paperboy. By now, all of this is just part of everyday life. While waiting to play with his dad, Timmy sees a commercial on TV. ZomCon is presenting a new invention, a heart monitor for zombies that prevents families from being caught off guard when someone dies, since the system detects the exact moment and activates control immediately. Bill comes downstairs ready to leave, but not to play with his son. He's heading out with his co-workers. He tries to sneak away, but Timmy catches him and asks to go along. Bill refuses and leaves, so the boy decides to practice baseball outside by himself. Meanwhile, Helen leaves the house saying she's going to visit the new neighbors, although she's really trying to get a zombie of her own. Timmy keeps playing alone until he loses the ball. Suddenly, the zombie appears, picks it up, and gives it back to him. Even so, Timmy gets bored and goes for a walk around the neighborhood. During his walk, he sees Roy and Stan using a shotgun to shoot at the zombies working in the park. When they spot him, Stan chases him down and knocks him to the ground while Roy points the gun at him. Just then, the zombie steps in and throws one of the boys aside. The brothers run away, and Timmy, surprised, heads back home with his new friend. That's when he decides to give him a name, Fido. Timmy starts playing with him, tossing the ball so he can fetch it. But during one of those throws, the ball lands near Mrs. Henderson, the most troublesome neighbor. When she sees the zombie, she starts hitting him with her walker. At that moment, something goes wrong. The collar stops working. Fido goes back to his wild state. Timmy hears the screams and runs toward her, but it's too late. He finds Fido attacking Mrs. Henderson. Then the zombie turns toward Timmy and begins walking closer. Luckily, just before anything worse happens, the collar turns back on, and Fido, as if nothing happened, simply picks up the ball and hands it back to him. After what just happened, Timmy doesn't even pick up the ball. Instead, he runs home with Fido to clean him up. On the way, he runs into Cindy, who warns him that he shouldn't be walking around with his zombie without a leash because it's against the rules. Right then, her father, Johnny, shows up to take her to ballet class. Before leaving, Cindy lends Timmy her leash. Johnny notices that Fido is covered in blood, but Timmy quickly makes up an excuse, saying he got dirty while helping him. To avoid more questions, Cindy rushes her dad, saying they're already late. Though before leaving, she admits to Timmy that she hates ballet. Back at home, Timmy takes Fido into the garage and cleans him with a hose. While checking him, he notices a scar on his chest and realizes he died from a heart attack. At that moment, Helen arrives and Fido, startled, makes a mess by knocking things over. Helen gets worried, thinking Bill will want to get rid of the zombie when he sees all that, but Timmy promises he'll fix everything before he gets home. Later on, Johnny and his wife visit the family to ask about Mrs. Henderson's disappearance. Timmy's parents try to downplay the situation, saying Mrs. Henderson probably just got lost. But after the neighbors leave, Timmy asks what would happen if a zombie had attacked her. Bill replies that it would be the same as with the Johnson family, who were banished to the wild zone after their zombie attacked several people. That night, Mrs. Henderson returns, but now as a zombie. She starts attacking around the neighborhood, and her first victim is a man walking his dog in the park. While his parents are asleep, Timmy decides to act. He grabs a shovel, hops on his bike, and heads to the park where he left the body. Once there, he only finds an arm, and suddenly Mrs. Henderson appears behind him and tries to attack. Terrified, Timmy defends himself with the shovel. After several hits, he manages to stop her and ends up burying her head among the flowers, knowing how much she loved plants. The boy goes back home and tries to sleep, but he can't. Outside, strange noises can be heard, and it seems like a storm is coming. When he goes out to check, he discovers that Fido's collar has failed again. Luckily, Mr. Theophilus hears the commotion and comes to help. He takes Timmy and Fido to his house, where, together with his zombie girlfriend, they manage to hold Fido down and fix the collar. During all this, Timmy discovers that Fido used to smoke before he died as he tries to grab a cigarette. Once the device is fixed, Theophilus lets them go back home, but asks Timmy not to tell anyone what happened. The next day, the Robinsons attend a funeral, just like all the neighbors. Helen even dresses Fido in formal clothes, and little by little, it's clear she's growing fond of him, just like Timmy. The boy doesn't enjoy these events because he rarely knows anyone there, but his mother insists it's important, especially for his father. During the ceremony, the atmosphere feels quite strange. Only a small number of people choose to be truly buried, while most prefer to become controlled zombies instead. In fact, Bill proudly mentions that he has paid for funeral plans for his entire family, making sure they will all have a permanent burial when the time comes. Meanwhile, at the park, Miss Mills and her boyfriend are peacefully having a picnic. Unaware that danger is still out there, suddenly a zombie appears and attacks them. Back at the funeral, Timmy surprises everyone by saying that he would rather become a zombie when he dies. To everyone's shock, Helen supports him. She doesn't want to be buried either. When they return home, they see Mr. Henderson being arrested by the police, accused of arranging an illegal burial. From that point on, things in the city start to get worse. Several zombies attack again, and although the police try to control them, some officers end up overwhelmed. In the middle of all this, life goes on. One day, Timmy and Fido are washing the car when Helen brings juice for her son, and decides to give some to Fido as well. The zombie stares at her, almost hypnotized, and Timmy takes the chance to spray him with the hose. Then he ends up soaking his mom too, and the three of them start laughing and having fun together like a real family. Right then, Bill shows up, ready to leave for a golf game. When he sees Fido drinking juice, he's surprised and says zombies can't do that, but Helen corrects him. They can eat and drink, they just don't need it to survive. Still, Bill ignores everything and leaves with his friend Floyd, walking away from his family even as Helen tries to get him to stay because she has something important to tell him. Meanwhile, the search for Mrs. Henderson continues. The police find her zombie and also arrest Roy and Stan, who had been shooting at zombies in the park. The boys try to blame Fido, claiming he was the one who attacked, but Johnny doesn't believe them. Even so, without evidence, he has to let them go. Later, Timmy decides to go for a walk with Fido outside the city. Everything seems calm until Roy and Stan show up again. This time, they capture them, tie Timmy to a tree, and destroy Fido's collar. The boys' plan is cruel. They want Fido to attack Timmy so they can save him by shooting the zombie, blaming everything that's been happening in the city on Fido, and getting the Robinson family expelled. But nothing goes as planned. When they release Fido, Roy panics and misses his shot. The bullet goes straight through the zombie and ends up killing Stan instead. Terrified, Roy runs away and hides in a nearby cabin, but Fido follows him and attacks him. Minutes later, Fido returns to Timmy. The boy, scared, thinks he'll be next. But instead of attacking him, the zombie tries to help, attempting to free him from the tree. That's when Timmy realizes something incredible. Fido isn't dangerous to him. Since he can't untie him, Timmy asks Fido to go get help. Before leaving, Fido locks the other boy inside the cabin to prevent him from becoming a threat once he comes back as a zombie. Shortly after, Fido finds Helen and leads her to her son. Along the way, she realizes the collar is no longer working. And at first, she's afraid, but she quickly understands something important. Fido doesn't need control because he truly doesn't want to hurt them. In this way, mother and son are reunited thanks to a zombie who, against all odds, proves to be more human than many of the living. Meanwhile, Roy manages to get out of the cabin and walks straight toward Timmy. Just when everything seems lost, Helen shows up at full speed and runs him over. At that moment, Stan also rises as a zombie and tries to attack, but Fido steps in and throws him aside. Helen wastes no time. She goes after him and takes him down for good. Relieved, she hugs her son, and Fido as well. After freeing Timmy, she puts the bodies of the two boys inside the cabin, pours fuel all over the place, and sets it on fire to erase any trace of what happened. After that, the three of them return home as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, the situation with Mrs. Henderson remains a mystery, and her body is eventually found while people are working in a garden, keeping tension high in the neighborhood. The next day, the Robinson family visits the Bottoms. While Timmy and Cindy play, Helen talks with Dee Dee, who asks if Bill is excited about the new baby, and that's when something important is revealed. Helen is pregnant, but Bill doesn't even know. Meanwhile, Johnny takes Bill to his war room and shows him memories from the zombie war, including the first zombie he ever killed. During their conversation, he hints at a suspicion. He believes Fido was responsible for attacking Mrs. Henderson and that Timmy is covering it up. When they return home, Bill, worried, sends Timmy to his room and tries to talk to Helen about it. But she doesn't want to argue, she just wants to spend a moment together. She even asks him to dance with her. Bill refuses, so Helen decides to dance with Fido instead. This makes Bill furious. He shows up with the remote control and electrocutes the zombie, then simply walks away as if nothing happened. Later, Helen goes out to the yard, approaches Fido and apologizes for her husband's behavior. She even tells him she wishes she had met him before he died. Meanwhile, Johnny keeps investigating and finds Timmy's baseball at the scene of the incident. With that, he starts to seriously suspect the boy. The next morning, Timmy wakes up and realizes Fido is gone. Desperate, he runs to his mom and finds out that Zomcon has taken him. Shortly after, Johnny talks to him and says he could have sent his entire family to the desert, but chose not to because his parents promised that nothing like that would ever happen again. The following day, Bill drives Timmy to school and before dropping him off, gives him a gun for protection. Then he heads to work. That same night, Helen tries to tell him she's pregnant, but Bill only responds with concern about money, saying they might not be able to afford another burial. The next morning, Timmy wakes up when someone throws a rock at his window. It's Cindy who leaves him a note. Fido is still alive. When they meet, she tells him she overheard her father saying that the zombie was taken to the Zomcon factory. Determined to rescue him, Timmy seeks help from Mr. Theopolis, who agrees right away. Together, they head to Zomcon headquarters, and with a clever excuse, they manage to get inside. Meanwhile, Helen realizes Timmy is gone and finds his note. She quickly calls Bill, and the two of them rush out to find him. Inside Zomcon, Timmy and Theopolis stand in line at the returns area. To distract the guards, Theopolis causes chaos by removing the collar from a nearby zombie. Everything spirals out of control. Gunshots, screams, and in the middle of the chaos, Timmy sneaks into the factory to search for Fido. But he's not alone. Johnny spots him through the security cameras and goes after him, determined to stop him once and for all. Minutes later, Timmy finally finds Fido inside the factory. But at that very moment, Johnny shows up and stops him. Seeing his friend in danger, Fido desperately tries to break free from his chains, even using a saw to cut himself loose. At the same time, Helen and Bill arrive at the ZomCon facility. Since they're not allowed inside, a guard tries to stop them, but Helen refuses to back down and forces her way in. Bill grabs a weapon and runs to find his son, while she stays outside in case Timmy manages to escape. Amid the chaos, Bill runs into Fido, and together they begin searching for Timmy as everything collapses around them. Meanwhile, Johnny takes the boy to the outer area, right by the gate that separates the safe city from the zombie-infested world beyond. Without hesitation, Johnny throws Timmy outside the fence, leaving him surrounded by zombies. At that moment, Bill and Fido arrive. Bill demands that Johnny open the gate, but instead, Johnny points a gun at him. The two begin fighting hand to hand. Timmy manages to open the gate and get back into the safe zone. He tries to help his father, but it's too late. Johnny shoots Bill and kills him. In the middle of the chaos and desperation, Timmy makes a choice. He deactivates Fido's collar, trusting him completely. The zombie charges at the others and begins to defend them. Johnny tries to cross the gate to continue the attack, but everything becomes even more chaotic. Just then, Helen arrives to save her son. She shoots at the zombies and manages to hold them off while they escape. Outside, Mr. Theopolis shows up with his vehicle to help them get away. Meanwhile, inside ZomCon, the guards try to contain the outbreak, but they're overwhelmed by the number of zombies. Days later, Timmy and his mother attend a very special funeral. Helen decides to respect Bill's wishes and gives him a permanent burial, just as he wanted. Weeks later, the family's baby is born, and the neighbors come to celebrate. Timmy is surprised to see that Johnny is now a zombie, turned into his own daughter's pet. Cindy mentions that this way her father is much nicer. As for Fido, he becomes part of the family once again and adapts perfectly to the new baby. And although Helen has lost her husband, she finds support in Fido, who is now truly part of their family.